Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear?
Sound good to me, Coach. Checking here too.
Sounds good to me over here, Coach. Let's just make sure we get an audio confirmation in the chat and we will go ahead and get started. Audio, video good from Andrew. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If we have not met, I am Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year now. I've been trading for about 11 years and been in the futures markets for about 5, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, Coach Jay. I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep about a year and a half. I've been involved in the futures industry for 40 years. I've traded the majority of those years. I have been in different roles, but my favorite thing to do is trade. And I also coach basketball as well as Coach Jay. And I find a lot of similarities of making decisions in sports as in trading, which we will go over from time to time. And just welcome and let's get at it, Coach.
Let's get at it. So the way we start every segment is by reviewing. You can see that I just lost one of those XFAs today. I didn't have the greatest trading day, but it happens. But we review the biggest percentage movers on the day. These may be some outside markets that we have not traded before. And to the downside, we have soybean meal down 0.53%, the Japanese yen down 1.09%, and nat gas down 2.65%. To the upside, we have 2.26%, heating oil up 2.26%, lean hogs up 2.41%, and micro Bitcoin futures, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 3.91%. For the major four markets we talk about, crude oil up 1.65%. We got the NASDAQ up 0.17%, violently unchanged. The S&P is up 0.1%, and gold somewhere on here, gold down 0.5%.
No, the pigs were not in slop today.
They were not. Pigs were flying today. Lean hogs up 2.4%. As far as news goes, we know that the big news is out tomorrow. And just a reminder to everyone that this Trader Hub in Topstep X is awesome. This data is coming straight from Financial Juice, so you don't need to go to Financial Juice to get it. You just click on this little icon here for the Trader Hub and pulls up the news for the day. Today we had a retail sales number come out, and we also had the Canadian CPI number. Coach, we talked about that Canadian CPI number a little bit, seeming like it did have an effect on the market. But the big news is tomorrow.
Yeah, the big news, the big event.
The big event.
The one that happens every month. And it comes out at 1 o'clock Central, I believe, 2 o'clock Eastern.
That is correct. Yeah, 1 o'clock Central for that FOMC rate decision. We also do have maybe some minor numbers out earlier, a housing starts number. But I think what we've seen and what we are going to continue to see until that number is the market's maybe waiting a little bit.
Yeah. For those of you who are new, don't trade in front of the number of the announcement. It brings in there's a high probability that you'll have very large, quick moves right at the announcement. And it's that action is best reserved for market makers and big players who have to be in there. So give it some time, get behind it, and trade behind it. Piece of advice: you don't have to, but my experience, especially day trading, is you're there to make money, not to make markets.
Absolutely. And I see some people mentioning in the chat also that the rate decision is what it is, but the press conference is going to be really important as well. So that entire hour, right? I believe we are going to be streaming the press conference on Topstep TV. That entire hour, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time, some of the biggest volatility that we're going to see for the rest of the year. So don't be in such a hurry to jump into positions. You're not going to see many of the traders on Top TV in a hurry to jump into positions for that reason. If so, likely trading small, where you know they're the books are going to be thin, right? And you don't want to be the only person out there.
And I just one other thing, Coach. When you say the books are going to be thin, that means market makers are paring down their size.
Right.
So just as an example, if they're 100 up, they're going to be 10 up.
Right.
And that exacerbates the situation. So preserve capital. If you're brand new, probably stay away from it. Wait for the next day.
I would agree on that. And coach, I think if you can check video real quick, I just sent. I think your microphone is using your PC mic instead of your headset mic. So if you could change that source, there we go. I think it sounds a lot better now.
Is that better?
1,000 times better.
Okay.
1,000 times better. Sound like you were talking to me from the clouds before. It's all good. All good. Sounding great now. Yeah, Mark said it sounded like you were in a closet. We did not put Coach Paul in the closet.
Until you make money, you will trade in the closet.
Right. But yeah, that is 1,000 times better. Thank you for that, Coach. But let's get into the markets. We talked about the NASDAQ being violently unchanged. I'm going to go to a 30-minute chart on the NASDAQ here, Coach. We know we had rollovers, so this is a little bit of that contract changeover action. We didn't have this rally overnight. That would have been awesome if we did, right? But
if you were long,
right.
But you know, that's for those of you new. This there could be a percentage of our viewership that's never been in a rollover.
Mm-hmm.
What that represents is the difference between the September price and the December price. Right. So while that looks like it was a big move, all it was, you could remove that candle, and that's where these started trading. So there's a difference between the December price and the September price, and that's what that represents.
Absolutely. So we have our session open here, December contract open here, and where was settlement? Let's get these Topstep daily levels on here, because the NASDAQ ended up 0.1% for the day. Settlement's this light blue line that you see here, cutting this range in half, where we closed up here yesterday and finished pretty much unchanged for the session. To be expected, what we've been talking about as far as range-bound activity until the Super Bowl. The NASDAQ may be trending higher currently on a medium time frame, but not really much of a direction. Tomorrow is going to tell us whether or not we go and make new all-time highs soon, or do we continue to sell back off, or maybe the market doesn't care at all and we just stay in this range. I think that's probably unlikely, but anything can and will happen, of course, Coach.
Yeah, that still looks pretty friendly to me, to the buyers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
My expectations that will continue, but that's an expectation.
Right.
I'll trade it to the long side the way I do it. I'm not suggesting you do, but that the buyers are in control here.
Right.
As I would say they are 80% of the time in the stock market, but that's another discussion. They're meant to go up. You know, Coach, is it possible to put a market profile on today's action? Because
market profile or volume profile?
A market profile.
Market profile, not on Topstep X yet.
Okay.
It is on the way. I know Hogue has that as part of his wish list. It is on the way.
That looks to me like a perfectly balanced profile.
Oh, yeah.
If you cut that in half, it's about the same amount of movement under the pivot as it was above the pivot. And we went, where did we finish? Right around the pivot. very balanced day. And as coaches, we like to say it violently unchanged. And that is a classic even distribution, which is most likely the expectation, as we were talking yesterday, in front of the big Super Bowl of numbers.
Absolutely. I put threw a volume profile up here for you, Coach, and kind of exactly what you're saying, right? Maybe the next best thing to market profile, but two pretty much even distributions of volume, a little gap in the middle here, but not a decision made in this market.
No, that's a classic of shake the tree. On the floor, they used to do that. You get a couple with locals, it'd be slow. Hey, all of them sell a 50 lot and see if you can ferret out a stop. And if you do, you're gonna hit a double or a triple. And if you don't, you struck out.
Right. So let's go into a Charles. Let's go into a shorter time frame, see what opportunities may have looked like for a day trade, because although this was a range high to low on the day, we did have about 270 points, so there was some opportunity. You guys are funny with these comments. There was some opportunity in this. I just anchored a VWAP to the 3-minute opening range. You guys know I use a 3-minute, but you can use whatever time frame works for you. And we kind of chopped around, Coach. We didn't have VWAP leave that range until much later on in the session, until after the first 2 hours. But outside of that, range bound activity, fading the extremes if you did see opportunity to take these trades. But this is a lot of chop in the middle. I was watching TopstepTV. I know Dakota and the house account did take some trades in the NASDAQ, and they traded it really well like a range bound market. I was more so on the rips bandwagon of, hey, this is where I get chopped up. It's where I did get chopped up in this account. But I know when I'm looking at this, I shouldn't be trading it. Probably shouldn't have today. Decided to take a few opportunities and paid for it. So like Rips, kind of sitting on his hands, knowing, hey, you know what? I am not going to trade this price action well. I'm curious to know if Rips traded after the fact. Where he's a much better range bound trader. I mean, trend trader in his own words. Where we did get a really nice sell off, but it made you wait for it.
Yeah, and that first hour of trading was a perfect market for someone like Dakota. And he said, I want to buy low, sell high. And he did it. And I love the dichotomy of both of them. When you're trading, you have to understand yourself first, what your strengths and weaknesses are. And be prepared to execute upon that. When you try to be a trader to all different markets, you can get spun around. So very interesting, because when it broke after that, I mean, it floundered. It literally floundered sharply. But when it broke,
it broke.
What was the volume on that break? I bet you it wasn't. It had been below average volume.
Let's see.
Yeah, because there was more volume done on top than on the bottom.
In these 3-minute candles, volume did increase, right? We did see some pretty nice selling volume, right, where we broke out and increasing volume, which is nice. But yeah, a lot of this big gap in the middle, we didn't spend a lot of time in the space. I did see some traders mention we need to fill this before FOMC tomorrow, potentially, right? We might, fill out this gap in the volume profile. But yeah, didn't spend a whole lot of time in these prices, and that sell off was from 19,770 down to, we'll call it 670, about 100 points.
Yeah, and that happened very quickly.
Yep.
And even earlier at the open, there was 40-point instant swings.
Yes.
And my suspicion is we're still in the roll. If you have to move a large amount, 40 points, 50 points, 60 points, 70 points, 80 points, 90 points, 100 points, 200 points, 300 points, 400 points, 500 points, 600 points, 700 points, 800 points, 900 points, 1000 points, 2000 points, 3000 points, 4000 points, 5000 points, 6000 points, 7000 points, 8000 points, 9000 points, 100 points, 200 points, 300 points, 400 points, 500 points, 600 points, 700 points, 800 points, 900 points, 1000 points, 2000 points, 3000 points, 4000 points, 5000 points, 6000 points, 7000 points, 8000 points, 100 points, 200 points, 300 points, 400 points, 500 points, 600 and you want to do it immediately, you can sweep the market. That means I want to sell up to 500 or 1,000 down to X. So, and since sell 500, start at even, and don't go further than 95. And when that does that, it just hits everything, and you see that kind of rocks your world. I think you see that a lot more during the roll, and I saw that a few times this morning. I mean, it, it just moved.
Yeah, it did. Really quick moves. I think what Dakota was looking at, similar to what he was looking at last week, was any of these pops, right? Any of this momentum to the upside wasn't real momentum. Kind of was just price action. But you see, like you said, Coach, these sharp moves to the downside, which it was either see profit, take profit if you were in a long, don't trade it, or find an opportunity to short. There was opportunity on both sides for sure, but to me, this looks like danger zone. Anything else on the NASDAQ before we move on? I do want to talk a little bit about what might be coming up after this rate decision and how that might affect the equity markets. I know on these charts we do have that rollover gap. So I'm going to take this volume profile off of here for now because it's doing a bunch of stuff I don't want it to. Oh, that's why. Got so much stuff running on this computer right now. All right. But yeah, after tomorrow, right, the rate decision. Right now, we see it priced in, and I will pull up FedWatch. Again, just watch your eyes, viewers. Can't change the white background. But right now, we have a 65% probability of a 50 basis point cut and a 35% probability of a 25 basis point cut. So I think everyone's pretty sure that we are going to see the Fed do something tomorrow. What that something is, we still don't know yet. We're going to hear it at 1 p.m. But how do we think, if at all, the markets will respond to this?
Well, I'd be surprised. I can't say shocked because it's it's actually the odds are according to the book.
Right.
It's like the over and under. I'd be surprised with a half point. But we've discussed this before.
Mhm.
But now coming into that, knowing that, I think tomorrow, if it's a quarter point, I think the market's going to be a little bit disappointed.
Interesting. 'Cause the quarter is the surprise right now.
The quarter, yeah, if according to the Fed Watch.
Right.
Um,
We'll see how
so
many times that changes tomorrow, but
but I think we'll see. That's just my opinion.
right.
And the clearing corporation has never taken my opinion for margin, so goes back to putting putting some skin in the game. But
Absolutely.
interesting thoughts there. I don't. So
Yeah, we seen some comments in the chat. Ken Crawford says the market's going to respond violently. I would agree with that. And then I think regardless of the cut, we have a pop of upside. But if it's a half, I think we fade the pop. Yeah, we will see. We will see. Right. Fed's going to do what they need to do. The market's probably going to trade to both sides. I know that I will be flat during it, and then watching the reaction afterwards. But if the market gets favorable news, I think we do see, on a higher time frame, some all-time highs pretty soon. Especially in the S&Ps, we can move over to the ES, where we are much closer. Well, if we were still on the September contract, we can go back.
subtract 60 points from today's action.
There we go. So 57.05, that would have put us at 56.40 about. Because if you look at this here, it's going to show that we are above an all-time high. We did not make all-time highs in the S&Ps today. That is the roll. But we were before we rolled over, we were about 1.5% off the all-time highs in the S&Ps. So with the Continuous contract, we're probably pretty close to an all-time high if the market
Actually, I
reacts
can give it to
favorably.
you. I
Okay.
have it on another platform. Give 1 second.
Thanks, Coach.
EP. Yeah. Okay. The all-time high. No, we're not that far away from it.
No, it's not far at all.
Drum roll. All right. 57.21 and a quarter.
Yep. So that was from the last contract. If we adjusted for this contract, I think Brooksy just said it right.
60.
57.80. Okay, yeah. So 57.80s.
Yeah.
Got it. 57.80s. So we are not far, right? That's 80 points.
Heck,
Who just said it?
tomorrow?
I was just going to say Charles Chapman said 120 point range in the ES tomorrow. Probably. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if we saw 120 point range in an hour. What hour of the day would you ask? Take a guess. Take a guess.
Hey, there's a question from R1 and something double, risen double. I don't. Coach Jay and Paul, would you consider trading fast markets in the morning, trading in front of the Fed meeting? Very good question. Yes, I would. If you're used to trading at that time frame, and you see an opportunity that fits your plan, yeah, take the trade. When I talk about trading in front, an hour ahead or a half an hour ahead, even an hour ahead, it's going to get thin and sloppy. That's when I really don't trade after. I would say don't trade after the first hour.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Personally.
I would agree with that. I'm expecting to see volume pretty low up until that time. And yeah, I don't know that I would take a trade tomorrow in any account that matters. I'm going to be honest, the entire day. Because even once you wait for the news, right, that type of volatility, during that press conference, anything can be said that algos are going to pick up on, traders are going to pick up on that could, shoot us 20 points in either direction in the S&Ps or 100 points in the NASDAQ. Just don't know that I want that stress. So I think I'm going to let them do what they need to do and maybe find some opportunities on Thursday. Speaking of which, I'm going to pull this back up for a second because I think we just got an adjustment. Let me see if I read that right. Nope, it's still the same. 35%. I thought it just changed looking out of the corner of my eye, but that must have been something else. The S&P is very similar story to the NASDAQ today. We did have that news out early before the market opened. We didn't do this on the NASDAQ, but we'll do it here on the S&Ps. Just framing out that news candle. What came out today, it was Canadian CPI. Canadian CPI and retail sales. I know, I broke the rule. So framing that candle out, that news candle, didn't really present much of a great opportunity today because it was in the middle of that range. Again, same story as the NASDAQ. This was not an easy trade early on. If you were looking for a trend, if you're a range-bound trader, this is to me, exactly how you identify the extremes of the range. If we look at VWAP from that news, it never left the range, right? So fading the extremes until that fails, right? Where maybe even if you're buying here, this is the one where you say, you know what, I'm happy I had a stop loss because if I faded to the extremes of the range, did pretty well. But eventually those ranges are going to break, and that's why you get stopped out, and the market is telling you it's trying to do something else.
A great example. Once again, that VWAP didn't leave that candle range. So never did. And we've been noticing that. What does that mean? This there was buying, but it wasn't heavy buying.
Right.
It wasn't good buying. So I'd imagine that profile of a market right there is what I would imagine we would see tomorrow morning.
Agreed. I agree.
Yeah, unless there's some news that comes out overnight, of course, like peace on earth, goodwill towards man.
Hopefully. That's
Hopefully.
it. And then we get the all-time high before Jerome even speaks.
Yeah.
And we go from there. But very much the same on S&Ps today as the NASDAQ. Of course, we know everyone is waiting. I don't have too much more on the equities. Just be patient tomorrow, or pay for it. Either one.
Good point.
Coach, let's move on to gold. We'll go to gold on 30 air horns by the end of the day. Possibly. Anything is possible.
Well, what was the low today, Coach?
I was just going to ask you. I know you did say you traded this, so I'm going to let you take this one, Coach.
At a sharp break today, and we can put a VWAP from last night. It's open.
Yep, I got you. Last night's open. Right there. I'm going to take the moving averages off of there so we can see it. There we go.
Okay. So look at that. So we had choppy action, but what was the VWAP? Drifting lower.
Yep.
All right. Couldn't get over. I couldn't get going. It tried. It very much looked like what we just looked at in the S&P. If we frame that first half an hour out.
Yep.
Yeah. See, VWAP never got above that opening candle. And to me, what is that telling us? It's not good buying. If it was good buying, what should VWAP be doing?
Leaving that range to the upside.
Should be trending higher. Then we had the collapse today. We have probably some liquidation in front of tomorrow. I don't know. There was some news thing. Good for you. Good on you, Canadians. You have less inflation than expected. Maybe that affected the gold. It could very well. But the low of the day, that white line is the 200 bar moving average. I happened to be filing through and I saw that, bought a few micros off of that. And it wasn't it'll pay for lunch this week. But overall, it's holding that. So tomorrow, looking into that, it's still a pretty big upside. I think gold's got a shot at blowing the horn and then dropping $20 again.
Only like gold could do.
In the pattern, right?
Yes, it has.
So still looks good. Actually, the sell side was good today. Like we said, the buying early could not. That's just bad buying. From the start.
Yep.
And then
buyers were not getting much for what they were paying for, and eventually they become sellers.
Yeah, until we found that 200, and we'll see again tonight. Remember, difference in gold and crude. If you've been an equity trader and you're looking at these markets, volume can come in at any time because it trades literally 24 hours a day, 7 days. It never stops. Even when the futures are closed, gold and crude oil move somewhere on the earth. And that volume can come in at any time. Just be aware if you're looking to trade commodities and you've traded equities. There's really, to me, there's no true open. It's kind of open all the time, much like Bitcoin cash. Just be aware of that. But gold I would say it's on sale right now.
We got a question in the chat from, and it says, how does gold do after a Fed rate cut in your experience? Been doing some homework and would like to hear your thoughts. And that is from Risen again.
I really haven't watched that. My assumption is this: if there's a rate cut, it should be friendly to gold. But isn't that expected? So
sell the news.
I would say look at the daily.
Yeah.
And the daily will give us a bit. I mean, we know I am visual. Oh, there it is. By the dip. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think anything is affecting gold right now, and maybe this rate cut will, but this on it from a technical perspective, this market looks like it's in an uptrend. And if the gold market doesn't like the news, we'll see it.
Yeah.
Right. We'll see what that reaction is, but
I would do this. Risen Devil, I think it's, if I'm reading that cryptic name. What do you think? Let us know.
Yep.
Actually, Coach,
right.
I would be interested while we're going through this. See how many people think what if we're having a 25 basis rate cut or a 50. Let us know.
Put it in the chat. If you think we're getting 25 points, put 25, 50 in the chat if you think we are getting 50. Or put a IDK if you don't know.
There you go.
See, we got 700 people watching right now. Also, while you're doing that, let us know who is new to watching here. If you're new, this is your first time checking out At the Buzzer with Coach Paul and myself, let me know. Always love to know when we have new traders here. And Artem says we're getting 75 basis points.
Buy the 2-year futures.
Right. And we'll take a look at those as well. Just the notes. But let's go to crude oil real quick. And in the chat right now, I'm seeing a lot of 25s. Don't know what a rate cut is from Rob Walsh. It's fair.
Good for you, Rob.
Sometimes more information is not always great.
Yeah.
All right. So we got, looks like majority 25s. We got a 0 in there as well. Another hot take. No cut. Which right now there's a 100% probability of something happening. So if nothing happens, what happens then? It's a question we all have to ask ourselves. Let's look at the notes real quick, actually, before we go into.
Coach, you kind of stunned me with that question. I'm like,
right.
That would shock the world.
What would happen? What happens if nothing happens? Right. Let's look at I pulled up a chart of the 10-year, Coach, where if we know rates are coming down, prices of the notes are going to be going up. It's kind of what we've been seeing since the beginning of August. Just a little bit of a rally, and these have been under pretty heavy sell pressure going back to 2021. Could we see the start of a rally in prices for some of these interest rate products?
Well, that's a pretty friendly chart. Like you said, we got over, this is the most time we've spent over the 200-day moving average. It's
3 years.
3 years. And also it's starting to gain momentum.
Yep.
And it's been about 3 years with the tightening.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty friendly chart. With that said, I'm not going to trade it just because it's friendly,
right?
And own it. Look for, if we go to the 30-minute, we had some selling today. Here's another one. Don't trade that in front of that number.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Well, yeah. You know what? Go ahead and see what happens. My advice is not to. Remember that job is for the market makers and the institutions. Let them take that heat. So just my advice. It even stops. You could say, well, I'm going to put a tight stop in until it doesn't get filled.
Right.
That can happen. That's for another show. But today wow. Is that the daily?
That's the daily on the 2-year. Yeah, I was just kind of.
That looks even friendlier.
It does. It does. Just kind of cycling through these to see what they look like. They all look like friendly charts, but of course, these are as much as the equity market's waiting for that news tomorrow.
So it's in conclusion here, we're that 50% cut is what the market is expecting. If they don't get it, there's going to be some violence. If like that would tell us what? I don't know what it would tell us, but I know this. If I enter the market, I have to, number one, cover my, I won't use that word.
CYA. Hogue used it today. Cover your ass, right? Like, don't trade without a stop. Don't be stubborn. Maybe don't trade while no one else is trading. Just to manage your account. Because if you don't, we can assume what the results of that are going to be. And hopefully it works out, but it almost feels like a 50-50. Let's go over to crude oil, Coach, a market that maybe doesn't care as much about the rate cut tomorrow
whatsoever. Except if you're carrying crude oil and you have to pay an interest rate to carry it.
Right.
It does. By the way, commodities are affected by interest rates in the formula for the cost of carry. The cost to carry is insurance, interest, storage fees. If you're in the cash market and commodities, it is the bottom line. But it's not going to affect the direction of crude oil. So with that said, that's another market. We started starting to hook. I call that a hook. Starting to bottom. You could say it's bottom. Boy, that was, in perspective, look at that 200 bar moving average. It's turned up. Is that the half hour, Coach?
This is the half hour. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And there it goes again. It looks a lot like that gold chart. Used the 200 moving average as a support. Look exactly like the gold chart. And bounce from there. So again, that 200 moving average, we've seen it, I don't know how many times now, being an important level. We also had some Topstep daily levels down here as well. If you don't have these on your charts, I would highly suggest putting them on there. It's as simple as, setting up the indicator. You can change the values of these, right, to show what you want. But we see these levels play out often. We see Coach Paul's 200 moving average as well. We did check it at 5 p.m. Central Time. Sorry, 5 a.m. Central Time this morning. But another decent opportunity if you were just trading the New York session, where this candle here checks down towards it, giving you some opportunity to limit your risk. Coach, I know you're looking at this where you're saying, I only want to trade one side of this.
Yeah, and that's to the buy side. Unfortunately, I was sleeping at that time.
Yeah.
But let's go to that candle. And this is when I look at a candle, I don't care that the price went through it. I want to see if it closes through it. A lot of times you can get chopped up or you can get spun around if you're just doing the price. So this went down there, closed above it. And I would say this is a great place to put an anchored VWAP to that candle and trade that. Like when I say trading one side, excuse me, my battery's about to go out. trading one side. Okay, I only want to buy it. Oh, you could do the sell side too. You could have done that but let's just in this. I mean, that tells the tale. I don't.
Yeah, very much so. And again, like you said, you could have sold it, right? You could have last night come into this. Here is the 30-minute opening range.
Is that a roll?
This is roll. Yeah,
this
is a
once again.
That is a roll. So we got to take this with a grain of salt. This candle here
probably changes that 200 moving average too.
Probably a little bit. But I think we saw this trending up, prior to the roll, right? Where this market looks like it's coming up off of that, multi-year bottom. But this was a decent short overnight. This was a decent short overnight. We left the 30-minute opening range to the low. VWAP leaving as well, where nice short, but this is where you kind of have to assess where am I in the trend of the market and where are potential areas that this counter trend trade is over, right? Medium time frame, we are moving up to the upside, right? The past couple of days. But running into what is a major support is an area where if I'm short, that's where I should be looking to take profits, or at least trailing my stop or something like that.
Yeah, at the least take profit. That's you could. Let's say it closes below. Okay, now I could put it back on and frame out my risk. But that's wow. I love that anchored VWAP.
How
many times I'm going to say it's the greatest thing that's happened since the electronic trading, from my point of view.
We got a question from Batman and Robin, dynamic duo. Almost as dynamic as you and I, Coach Paul.
Yes, I was going to say.
For a new trader, what do you recommend for chart studies? I would recommend checking out Coach Ray's classes in Discord. Coach Ray has been doing a class in Discord for a little over a year now. He records all of it, and it is in the Topstep Coaches library. I would recommend checking out his classes, checking out Coach Vince's classes as well. Coach Ray does a really great job of explaining supply and demand and areas where the market has the potential to react to. So I would suggest checking out his classes. If you want to check out the live class, he's doing it every day in Discord at 6 p.m. Central. Coach Vince does one right after at 7 p.m. But that coach's library, Coach Ray puts all of his videos in there. I would suggest starting with that because although he can get very detailed in his process, there are some intentionally beginner-friendly videos that he put there for that purpose. So I would check there.
Yeah, he's great and he's a good teacher. Also, just simple bar charts, candles. Put some simple moving averages on there and start studying. Listen to Coach Ray, Coach Vince, and then there was an old book on charting. Murphy was the author. I forgot. They had it's like a 600-700 page book that had every chart you could imagine. You don't, and with that, explore it, but find out what works best for you. I've done many. I started off with GAN, and then I market profile, and I ended up developing something that I could execute. But if you're new to this, be objective. If you can't, another thing, if it confuses you, go away. Find something else so that you can develop a process that isn't too complicated. This for new traders, don't get it too complicated. It's almost it's called paralysis through analysis, but expose yourself, and like Coach Ray is a good place. Coach Vince.
We're right here with us at the buzzer. All of us do look at the markets completely different. All of my analysis is going to be based on volume. Coach Paul, your analysis to start, to me, what I learned from you as a default is look at this 200 moving average and trade on one side of that. But then it's a combination of things. So find what works for you, find what resonates. Don't try to do all things. I always say stick with one thing long enough for you to figure out when it doesn't work. Because we always try to find what works. And the truth is that no strategy is going to work 100% of the time. So find out what market conditions fit the strategy that you're trying to trade the best.
Well, that's a great segue. Speaking of volume, John Castleton asks, what is the difference between volume and liquidity?
Good question. Good question. The way I'm going to say it, and they are somewhat interchangeable, right? Where a lot of times when you hear someone talking about liquidity, to me they're talking about volume. Volume is the amount of contracts, shares, whatever market you're trading, the amount that is actually traded. I would say liquidity is how fluid the movement is, right? Let's just say, for example, I would almost say, Coach, volume is the executed orders, liquidity is the passive orders.
Yeah, liquidity is the ability to execute volume from my
Correct.
perspective.
Correct.
Another word for that is bid offer size.
Correct.
I want to buy 1,000. Coach Jay has only 10.
Right.
Price is going to go up.
Yep. And Brixie just said it as well. Liquidity is what's available, right? I might be volume. Hey, I need to trade it, like you just said, Coach. I need to trade 1,000. Let's pull up an order book actually, so we can do this.
Oh, that'd be, yeah.
Go ahead. Keep going with your example.
So I spent many years as a floor broker. If I had to move size, I had to find locals or market makers to take the other side. So if I had to move size and I just looked at locals that I knew were small, then I knew I'm going to move the market. Or if I have a large position in an illiquid market like platinum, if I want to move 1,000 contracts of platinum, there's not enough liquidity for me to get it done easily. I'm going to have to really move the market versus something like the 10-year. I could move 1,000 contracts in one tick at certain times of the day.
Yep, that's 100% it, Coach. And I will pull up the 10-year here. Here's the difference, right? Coach Paul just said it. If you needed to trade 1,000 contracts, and the reason size traders care about liquidity is because ideally you want to get most of your orders done around the same price. Coach just said it, if I needed to trade 1,000 in the 10-year, I could move the market up. I could market buy based on what's on these books here. You see 1,600 contracts here. I could market buy 1,000 and move the market by a tick. Right? Let's go to the NASDAQ. If I market bought 1,000 right now, and again, the markets are closed, so you can see how empty these books are, we might make all-time highs. Right? Like, right. Based on the books, we'll go to the ES for a clearer example because there's actually something on the books. But based on what's sitting here right now, if I needed to market buy 1,000, and of course, there's obviously stops that aren't represented here in the size that you're seeing. If we're going based solely off of what's on these books here, if I market buy 1,000, I'm moving the price. And obviously, this is a simple example where there's not just me trading the markets. I'm moving the price at least 10 points. Right, so that's the difference. Volume is actual trades. Liquidity is what's available out there for trading to happen. But really great question. I know a lot of trading strategies. Talk about runs on liquidity, ICT strategies, obviously, and I think there's some validity there for sure. And that's what it's looking for. It's, hey, where are their orders to be executed? And yeah, Tom, the ARBs, yeah, there's no way I'm going to market 1,000 contracts and actually move the price. It was just for that example, but hopefully that explains it.
Yeah, we could go deep into that, but think of if you got to move size, you're gonna how you have
Hey,
to have someone on the other side.
speaking of ICT, shout out to ICT for watching. Thank you for watching us. And yeah, I'm sure ICT has videos on exactly what liquidity is
Yeah,
as well. I've seen some of them. So thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in.
yeah.
Any other questions in the chat that we do have? I think we went over the four major markets, Coach. Again, a lot of waiting in the equities. So anything else on your scouting report, actually? Let's talk about that.
Bitcoin. Let's bring up Bitcoin. Had a nice rally today. It's going to close above the 20-day moving average. I think it's gotten through a lot of different restraints. Let me bring it up on my chart. Yeah. It's broken out of the range it's been stuck in the last for the last 2 weeks. It's right there at the 200-day moving average above the 20. It's picking up some momentum. If we look at the is it the half an hour?
Yep, this is a half hour.
So if it's above the 200 bar moving average, I'm looking to buy it on the half hour. I did get one off earlier today. I didn't expect
Nice.
that kind of move. So, but the dips are being bought. It's really gone sideways for the last month.
Yeah, it looked a lot like gold, like the equities.
And by the way, it's a great place to trade. We don't talk about it. Micro Bitcoin, if you're new, you're not going to get killed. And by the way, you could do 2, 3 lots. It moves. Don't
Yep.
don't put don't stick your nose at it. So as the saying goes.
No, I think what you've been saying for a while, Coach, when we were doing this in Discord, is that micro Bitcoin is going to start moving a lot more like the equity markets that we're seeing, institutional money come into these markets. Do you think there's an effect with that interest rate number on Bitcoin tomorrow?
I'm sure there's some of an effect. I
Yep.
don't know how much that was, but it is starting to move like an equity.
Yep.
Talk about why? Because there's liquidity in there now. That word coming back.
Yeah, there it goes.
3 years ago, you wanted to move 100 Bitcoin, you're going to move that market a lot. It's the micro Bitcoin is what the average range in a day is about $400.
Nice.
So it's well within the confines for a combine. So
Absolutely.
that's my one. I like buying Bitcoin.
And it looks good. At one point today, I did check; it was up over 5%. We have seen some of these bigger percentage moves be in these, crypto futures, right? Even in Ethereum, I wouldn't suggest looking at the Ethereum market. It's like
Yeah.
11 cents a tick or something stupid. Maybe even less than that. Trade Bitcoin if you're going to trade the crypto futures because is the one personally that moves a lot more. There is more liquidity, and the tick value is worth trading. I'll say it that way.
And one other thing, this is a futures contract. It's got volatility. It has nothing to do with mining, or you're looking for an opportunity. We're speculating. Speculation is good in places that have volatility and trend. I don't own the cash Bitcoin. I did many years ago. Did well in it, but I think it's a good contract that's going to grow. You can do 2 lots, 3 lots, and not worry about blowing up your account. It's a good place. I would say it's a good place to learn. So yeah, Bitcoin
Absolutely.
is on my scouting report. How about you, Coach?
What am I scouting right now? So on my scouting report yesterday was this wheat contract. I didn't trade it. It did sell off. I was looking to the buy side, so I didn't take the trade. We see this kind of starting to trend lower, and what I was looking at is the response to this 200 moving average, where I think I could keep this on here because if we start to sell off, right, we see the 20 and the 50 crossing below that 200 moving average, then maybe that was just a short covering rally and we continue to turn. So I'm going to leave this on here. Again, I was looking to buy this and didn't like what I saw early in the morning. But if we start to now use this 200 moving average as a resistance, I'd be looking to the short side on this.
Cool. All right. How much
Let
time
us.
we have left?
What do we got? We got 3 minutes left here. Let us know if you do have any questions. JC, do I use a 3-minute or 1-minute chart? I use a 1-minute chart. I'm sorry. No, I don't. What am I talking about? Who said that? I use a three.
I was in shock. Well, I didn't know that.
I use a 3-minute chart. I use a 3-minute chart. Why a 3-minute? It just helps me make sense of the market. It's not as quick as a 1-minute. It's not a 15-minute. Somewhere in the middle. And it just helps me make sense of the market. Yeah, I don't know what that was. Little brain freeze.
But it's a great question, and find a time frame. The longer term time frames are for I would say are for direction, get an idea. But when you're going to execute your trading plan, choose a time frame, whether it's 1 minute, 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, that you can handle, that you're comfortable with, and do it consistently. One of the biggest ways to get into trouble is get in a trade on a 1 minute and then look at a 5-minute or vice versa, or a 30-second, looking for a reason why you were right. I have done that. It doesn't work. So be consistent. Whatever time frame you got in a trade for and why you got in there, that's your exit.
Absolutely. And once you find a time frame that works for you and you can do it consistently and you get on the Top Step leaderboard or at least in the 5K club, make sure you go ahead and submit your request for your 5K club hat. I just put the link for that in the chat. Anyone who has requested at least 5K or more is part of that 5K club. There's a nice hat and a pin available for you. You want to make sure you apply for that. Or if you haven't yet, you have something to strive to. Once you do get there, fill out that form and the team is going to send you your hat and your pin.
Cool.
So make sure if you haven't done that already, go ahead and do it.
Also,
go ahead, Coach.
If you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and smash it now, please.
Make sure you do that too. Let's get to 5K likes. I know we only got 700 people here, but that means you need to tell your friends and family to like and subscribe as well. So the more the merrier here at Topstep. And if you like what we are doing, I'm getting all of these plugs out at one time. Let's get them all out. Trustpilot. Go ahead and leave Topstep a review. That's not just for us. That's not just for me and Coach Paul. We know that you guys love us, but that's for Topstep as a whole. Kind of a review of what the company is doing with all the education that we provide, the platform Topstep X that's continually to be built out by traders for traders. Give us a review on Trustpilot if you like what you do. How long is this for, the hat and the pin thing? So the 5K club has been a thing since I've been at Topstep. It's been around, so I don't think it's anything that's going anywhere. I actually heard MP mentioning today maybe doing a tiered payout club. So there's a 5K, a 10K, all the way up to 100K, maybe even more, where it's like a prestige kind of thing, right? Where, hey, I got to this level. I want to put a pin in my hat to say that, it's like a feather in your hat. I want to put a pin in my hat to say that I got to this point in my trading career. So I think it's pretty awesome. Way to keep track of your progress, and just another incentive outside of the money that you paid yourself to kind of build the community.
Yeah, great. Have at it.
Have
and wear it, and chicks dig it. Or,
there you go. When level for the Lambo coach? Lambo levels, I don't know. That's going to be an MP thing, but you can ask him. But I got nothing else. Coach Paul, do you got anything before we go? Actually, I do got something else.
One little bit of wisdom I read, and I thought I'd share it. Speculation presupposes intellectual effort. Gambling, blind chance. And that's some good wisdom. If you're going to trade, have a plan, execute a plan. If you don't have a plan and you're just hoping trading to make money, you're basically gambling.
There you go. I don't think I have anything else to say after that. Do remember that we have classes coming up in Discord. Coach Ray at 6 p.m. Central, Coach Vince at 7, and of course Coach Dakota on slow markets at 7:30. Deanna with the London Open at, let me get the time right this time, 4 a.m. Central Time. Is that right? No, 3 a.m. Central Time. 3 a.m. Central Time. My brain does not do those conversions very well. And also, shout out to Coach Hoop. Coach Hoop is going to be doing his first session in Discord tomorrow. So we'll mention that again at the end of At the Buzzer. But Coach Hoop going to be doing his session in Discord tomorrow for the first time, 4:15 to 5 Central Time. So show Coach Hoop some love. I know he's going to be focusing a lot on fundamentals, which is not something that many of the personalities that you see on Topstep TV cover. So definitely a unique lane for Coach Hoop, and I'm excited I will be there as well. Thank you everyone for joining. If you haven't done so, hit that like button on the way out. Make sure it's an odd number, either 1 or 3. If you hit it twice, you're going to take your like back. And we will talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks again, Coach.
All right. Have a good FOMC.
Manage your risk. But
all right.